Hello guys, it's Dayo again with another video. So today I'm going to be showing you how to retouch images. So we are going to start up with importing the raw photo. So this particular photo has been shot on Canon EOS 6D, Canon 6D, and I got this image from Dirty Studio. Just in case you are interested in getting the same image, you can click on the link in my description section to download this particular image. Make sure even though you are not using this particular image, you can use a different image, but make sure you're using the raw file, not already converted image. So for you to know that it's a raw file, you check the ending. It shouldn't be JPEG or PNG. It should be a file format, a raw file format. Like this one, it is CR2 because I'm using a Canon 6D image. So yeah, let's dive into this tutorial. So press on this O2. When you press on the O2, it's going to give you, the computer is going to give you suggestions of the kind of edit that it thinks will suit your image. So when it brings out this kind of suggestions, you'd have to adjust the settings to suit your own taste. So I'm dragging the sliders to see what works for me. So I actually like this, but I'm going to be increasing my contrast to maybe 20. Then I always leave my highlights at -100. I would advise you to download this image in dirtystudio.com to follow along and actually learn how to edit like me exactly. So using a different reference in the if you are using a different reference, the basic settings won't be exactly like this, so keep that in mind. Then we are going to the details and adding the sharpening to maybe 50. Then we are going to the optics, then adding and ticking in remove chromatic aberration and use profile correction. Make sure it's always ticked. It makes the image look nice and it corrects some aberrations and the rest. So we are done with the basic settings, and yeah, we are done with all this. So up next we are going to be removing blemishes, and make sure you're actually still doing this on your camera raw filter before you take it to your main Photoshop interface. So I'm going to be using the adjustment brush, the spots removal tool first. I'm going to be using the spots removal tool, but make sure your image is zoomed in so that you can see some. Yes, the spots removal tool, which is the third icon. So you just tab on it, then you redirect where it's going to replace initially. So the red color is where you want to replace, and the green color is actually what the place you want to replace. So I don't know, just play around with it, you get a hang of it, you actually understand it better. Just tap on it, the area you tap to, the area having the pimple or the acne is red, then the green color is the area in which you want the area in which you want to replace the red. So it's just a very safer way to remove blemishes. You can see it's replacing the green with the red. It's replacing with the red with the green. So this is practically what I'm going to be doing. So you can just keep doing that. Make sure you identify the pimple, the acne on the face, then you just tap on it, then you also redirect where you actually want it to replace, because sometimes the computer doesn't actually understand the whole face. It's just going to give you suggestion on where it's going to replace. So yeah, I'm practically just going to be doing this for now. So I'm going to be speeding up the video a bit so as to finish up, then we proceed to the next step. So the next step is going to be teeth whitening. I'm just using my brush, colored brush, the fourth icon, it's the brush tool. I use it, and make sure you use the same settings I am using for you to attain the same results, because on a default settings you can't actually get what I'm getting. So I'm actually using these settings for teeth whitening and eyes whitening. So I'm actually done with my teeth whitening. I don't really want the teeth to look too white, so that it won't look less natural. So yeah, I'm done with my adjustments, my spot removal, and also my teeth whitening. I'm going to be adjusting this image to an actual portrait size. So I'm going to be using a portrait size so as for it to look actually nice. So after you adjust, you crop it, then you can zoom in the image to see whether there is another spot that you haven't removed. If there is no spot, then you can proceed. But before you do that, you can duplicate the layer, then go to your actions, go to frequency separation, then adjust the blur to maybe 3.5. Then when it's on 3.5, you can actually choose 4.02 as well. You can choose 4.0. Then after choosing, you press on OK. Then the first check layer, you delete it, make sure it's deleted, then you are all set. So before you start your frequency separation, you turn off the high frequency layer. Then you take your cursor and tab on the low frequency edit. Then you go to your brush tools, then you select the mixer brush, and your settings should be on soft airbrush. Then after you're done with that, copy my settings, then start retouching. I'm actually going to explain how you're going to retouch, so you all should calm down. So when you're using your soft airbrush to retouch, make sure you are retouching around the same skin tone, not going outside the skin tone. What I mean is that you shouldn't, if you are retouching, I'm going to be explaining using my colors, a brush, so that you understand what I'm saying. So I'm using a pink brush color to actually illustrate what I'm going to explain to you. So this area is called the dark skin tone. This is the shadow area. Then the blue area is called the mid tone, which is the middle tone. Then the blue area is the middle tone. Then the actual highlight is, I'm going to be selecting a different color for the actual highlight so that you all can understand what I'm doing. So the actual highlight is in sky. I don't know what this color is called. Is it cyan or sky blue? It's in sky blue. So this area I'm placing these colors, this sky blue is where your highlights are. And highlights is the brightest part of the photo, the brightest areas of the photo, of the skin tone as well. So if you want to actually know the brightest parts on the photos and the darkest parts on the photos and the middle, which is the mid-tone, you are actually going to be using the check layer we deleted initially. But if you are already knowledgeable enough to identify the middle tone and the shadows, the highlights, and the middle tone, it's fine. You can pretty much follow along with this tutorial. But actually, if you are finding it hard to actually identify the skin tone, the middle tone, the highlights, and the shadows, you make sure you keep your check layer on so that you can identify them easily. Also, you can use a gradient map to actually identify the highlights, the shadows, and the midtone, but I'm practically going to be showing you where they are placed. As you can see, I'm just identifying the area in which the highlight, the shadows are. I might not like really paint over the reference bar. I'm actually indicating where they are placed. So this pink, as I've said, is the darkest part of the photos. Then the blue is the middle tone. Then the cyan, or the, let's say, the sky blue or the sky cyan. I don't actually know what this color is. I'm sorry, it seems like a cyan. So the cyan color is the highlight. So I'm going to be showing you how to blend actually. So when you want to blend, make sure your brush, the brush of your mixer brush is minimal. The size of your mixer brush is minimal, and make sure you're blending along the same skin tone. As you can see, I'm illustrating with these colors. You can see how I am pushing the colors along the same range. Don't go overboard, don't go out of the range of the skin tones. So make sure whatever you're doing, it should be around the same skin tone. You should not go outside of the skin tone. Just look at carefully how I am blending it, and make sure you copy the settings I am using so as to get the same result. This is very essential. Do not go outside of the skin tone. Make sure whatever you're blending should be around the same skin tone. So we are going to actually exercise the same thing we've learned using colors on our image. So make sure you turn off the visibility of our high frequency layer, then go back to the low frequency edit, then click on your mixer brush, then you start blending. So around the top of the eyebrow, I'm trying to blend the color to balance everything all together. Then you go to the top of the forehead and you blend along the same color range. Make sure you don't mix it up. Don't mix the highlights to the shadows and the shadows to the highlights. Make sure is when you are blending around the same skin tone, so as not to mix up everything all together and spoil the frequency separation. So this actually is very essential. This tip is very essential when you're doing frequency separation. Do not mix the skin tone all together. So this is what we're actually going to be doing for the entire face to the shoulder. So just do well to stick around.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. Yeah. There's no mercy in this world, just hunger-thirsty persons in different versions. Each new update, that shit worsens. Why? Pull back the curtain and you'll see the different vermin. We all have different burdens that all seem to cause disturbance. Yo, So do me a favor, don't treat me like a neighbor. Don't need the different flavors of your problems just to savor. I've got my own issues, I need a comb to get through. Don't need to groan with you, just go get your own tissue. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. That's it, the end of the song. Next time you'll sing along. Trust me, there's nothing wrong. I just need to carry on, cause society's a myth put there to make you sit. Listen to what they give. Don't ask questions, shut your lid. Yeah, don't ask questions, shut your lid. I need to run away from this and go get off the grid. Feel like my brain is overloaded, man, I'm losing it. Don't let them tell you what to do, man, they don't know shit.
So we are pretty much done with our retouching. So we are going to turn off the visibility to see the difference between the before and after. So as you can see, there's pretty much a lot of change. So the frequency separation layer, if you think it's too much, you can adjust it, adjust the opacity to maybe 85, then merge the layer. So I've already done that. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be selecting the Liquify tool. To really push in the hands. There is this curve around the arms that I'm trying to avoid. I'm trying to make it look a bit natural. So there's this curve around this side of her hand, her arm. So around that arm side, there's this curve that I'm trying to avoid, this particular curve around that side. So I'm going to be using this forward warp tool. Then I'm going to push it a little bit inside. So I'm going to push it a little bit inside, liquify it a bit, just to make it look natural. So yeah, I think we're it's actually looking a bit nice now. So yeah, I think it looks more natural like this compared to the initial way it was looking. So yeah, you can pretty much use Liquify tool to push your image to adjust the proportion of any of the body. So as you can see, the before and after is pretty much visible and evidence that it's looking actually nice. So we are done with that. You press OK, then you go back to your Photoshop. So up next, we are going to be doing is we're going to actually select the skin tone, but before then duplicate the layer just to be on a safer side. So duplicate the layer, then select your quick selection tool, then you make sure you select the skin tone. I'm starting off with the forehead. I'm going to select the skin tone alone. Don't select the hair, don't select the glasses, just select the skin tone alone. You can press the minus sign above to eliminate or to remove the selection of the glasses. Then after you've done that of the forehead, you can still press on the plus sign, then you select the rest of the body. Make sure your selection has not gone overboard. Make sure it's still around the skin. Make sure it's not outside. So carefully zoom your image and reselect and deselect any area you don't want it to be included. So after that, you can, after selecting the whole skin tone, you can just tap on the adjustment, any of the adjustments icon above. I'm going to be using hue and saturation, so just tap on it. It's going to automatically create a mask. It's automatically going to create a mask for your adjustment for the skin tone. So aside the mask, it has also created a clipping mask, but before then we are going to be duplicating the layer. Let's duplicate the hue and saturation layer, then remove the mask, release clipping mask. When you just tap on the three dots, then click on the release clipping mask, it's going to remove the clipping mask. Then remove the visibility of one layer. Then after you're done with that, click on the curve icon. Then after you click on the icon, then you remove the clipping mask as well. Then you drag the mask from the hue and saturation to the curve layer. Then it's going to replace the mask. Then you duplicate the curve layer as well. Then you replace the mask again. So I'm just going to practically use three masks for gradient map, curve, and hue and saturation. So that's just pretty much what I'm doing in this tutorial. I'm going to use this one mask to use for the whole gradient map, the curve, and the hue as adjustment layer. So that is what I've done now. So I'm going to also start off with my gradient map, but before then I'm going to click on the reverse for me to get the proper way of how it's supposed to be. Then we are going to be creating a skin tone for this particular model. So this particular model is a dark skin model, so it's quite evident that it's the dark skin model. So this gradient map works this way. So click on this box, then click on the color section, then you drag your wheel towards the brown color around this side exactly. Then what you're going to do is you're going to move that black area to a sort of brownish side. Just shift the wheel to a brownish side, just like this. Just shift it to that side, but make sure it's not too it's just make sure it's showing a brownish color. Then you press on OK. So now what we are doing is we are trying to create a color palette for the entire skin tone. So we just want to balance the skin to make it look a look a dark, make it look dark skin. So what we're going to do is we press on the white box as well, do the same process, but this time around we're not going to select a darker side, we are going to select a lighter side, which will serve as a highlight for our photo. So after we are done with that, we're still going to keep adjusting. As you can see our image is changing. The more we select a color, the more it changes. So just make sure you follow this tutorial carefully and see what I'm doing. So instead of us to have just two different skin tone, I'm going to split this palette into three sections. Since we have the highlight, shadows, and the mid-tone, we need to put our mid-tone as well. So we are going to follow the same process, but this time around we are going to select a color around the middle side. So it shouldn't be too saturated, but it shouldn't also be desaturated. It should be in the middle. So make sure you still play around with your highlights. You can make it brighter than this. You can make it brighter than this, but it shouldn't be white color. It shouldn't be pure white. So we can also shift our sliders to make sure the highlight pops out and make sure the shadows also pops out. So just make sure you just carefully see what I'm doing. As you can see, this is what we are getting now, but I am not satisfied with it, so I'm still going to make adjustments. But before then, I'm going to like just blend the area in which I selected, in which is looking very sharp. So I'm just going to use my mixer brush to just smooth the edge so that it will not look like it will not look obvious that it was selected. So after blending the edge, then you can use your brush. Your white brush is to sorry your black brush is to hide. So make sure you are doing this on your mask layer, because when you select a black color, you are going to be hiding the effect of that layer. But when you use a white color, you are going to be adding the effect. So black color helps you hide the effect. So after we've hide it, now we are going to use our mixer brush to smoothen the edge so that it will not look obvious that that area haven't been selected. And yeah, so we are just trying to make our stuff very nice and clean. So we are just trying to blend the edge to blend in with the lips, because we have no business balancing the color of the lip. So we only want to balance the skin tone. So in order to balance the skin tone, we have to deselect some areas. So we are still going to go back to our Gaussian, our gradient map, sorry, then make it more darker, make our um dark skin tone darker. As you can see, it's looking really nice, but still we still have a lot of work to do. So but as you can see, it's really looking balanced. So we are going to uh, start off secondly with we are going to see if we can still make the skin tone pop more better than this. So you can actually see the before and after. You can see how the skin tones are already looking balanced, but we still have to change the blend mode to color to see how it looks like. It seems like it's somehow looking off, but yeah, I'm just trying out to see what works for me. But before then, we are going to take our hue and saturation layer to the top. We are trying to make it to stand at the top, then reduce the lightness. We are going to reduce the lightness a bit, then reduce the if we say we are going to reduce the lightness, is going to be too dark, so we are leaving it at 0. Then reduce the saturation at 16 minus 16, then we are reducing the hue to -2. So then our gradient map, we are going to reduce the opacity to maybe 79, and as you can see, it's looking really nice. So we are going to change the blend mode of our gradient map to maybe color, then add the layer to 100%, then duplicate the same gradient map layer, then add a different blend mode to that layer. I'm going to be going with multiply because it gives that dark skin tone vibe. So we are going to be using multiply for the other gradient map layer. So we now have two gradient map. So we are going to our curves. Our curves is the last layer at the end. Then make sure you press Photo to see what the computer gives you as suggestion. But if it doesn't work, you just need to do an S curve, exactly what I've done. Make sure you make your S curve the same way I've done it over here. Make sure your input is at 54 and make sure your output is at, just make sure you use the figures I'm presently using. I'm trying to see how what works for me actually. There's no a certain fixed digit for all this kind of stuff, so you just need to work with what you think looks best for you. So it's just based on personal preference, but I'm going to be using these particular settings for this tutorial. So if you have any question, you can drop it down in the comment section. And yeah, if you're interested in digital art content and graphics, just do well to check my account, just do well to check this channel. There are a lot of videos about that. So I'm trying to adjust the color wheel to see what works for me, but it seems like it's looking a bit bad. It's not going to be. I'm trying to like take away the blacks away, then maybe introduce a bit of light, but it's still not giving me what I want. But yeah, you can just do the same adjustment I've done. You can pause the video, copy the exact curve, but make sure you understand curves. If you have issues with curve, you can DM me in my social media platform. I'm going to help you out. So I'm trying to see how I can also add some luminance a bit, so that the skin tone will pop up, or at least will pop out. I'm still trying to adjust. I'm still working under the master, not a red or any blue. I'm just working on a general skin color. So I've reduced the saturation to -17, and I've reduced the hue to -2. So I'm going to combine all these to a group. I'm going to be grouping them into one group. As you can see, before, after. As you can see, there's a drastic change in just a few matter of time. So what we are going to be doing is we are going to be using selective color as a new edit, but we are going to release the clipping mask. We don't need a clipping mask. So anytime I don't know why, whether it's from my Photoshop, but anytime I'm adding a new option or a new edit option, it clips it automatically to the next layer. So I don't like it. So when you go to your selective color, tap on the color, then tap on your black, then follow the exact process I'm doing. I'm trying to see how I can adjust the blacks also using the wheel, the sliders. So I'm trying to see how I can add my blacks a bit, not too much. I'm trying to test to see what works for me, but I think I'm going to be going with 0. Then add a little bit of blue, because the opposite of yellow is blue. So when you go to the plus, the right hand side is giving you yellow. When you go to the left hand side, it's giving you blue. So I'm going to be adding a blue, maybe -5. Then I'm going to be adding magenta. No, I think the opposite of magenta is green, so I'm going to be adding a bit of magenta. I don't know whether it really looks nice, but okay, let's just go with our green, a bit of green, so which is -2. Then we are going to be applying cyan, or let's just leave it at 0, or let's leave it at -1 or 0. Let's just leave it at 0 for now. So let's go to the next one, neutral. So for neutral, we are going to be adding, we are just going to be adding it a bit. We are going to be adding the blacks a bit, just to see how we can make the shadow pop out. So we are going to our yellows. I'm going to like turn the yellow to maybe, let's say, +1. Then our magenta should be in also +1. Let me see, it's looking nice, it's actually looking nice. Let's take our cyan to I think 0 is okay. It shouldn't be. Yeah, before and after is actually looking nice. So let's go to our whites. So our white is mostly for the highlights. So I always turn my blacks of under the whites, the blacks under the whites, to either 60 or 50, because it pops up my highlights, so I don't really need to do any dodge and burn. So I don't really need to do any dodge and burn. After my frequency separation, my skin tuning, I just dive into the sliders and add my whites, so it pops up my highlights, so I don't need to do any dodge and burn. So I actually I always take my whites to the negative side. So all these figures are the figures I'm presently going to be using, unless the end result tells me otherwise. I'm sticking with this result. So but I'm still going to be changing adjustment to see what works for me. I initially thought the highlights were too overboard, but I think I'm sticking with my 60 minus 60. So yeah, yellow at minus 58 as well, then 55, then yeah. So we are going to the yellows. We don't have business with the cyan, we don't have business with the greens. We just want to go to the yellows to change some saturations. So our blacks is going to be 10, the blacks, then the yellow will be around. Wow, it's actually looking nice, but I think I'm going to make it look natural instead of changing the entire background color. So instead of changing the entire background color, we are going to stick to, I think we're going to stick with a natural something. We're going to stick with, this is too much, so I'm going to stick with 0 for now. Let's see. So this, let's see if, let's say magenta. Let's try magenta and see if it's going to give us a nice combination. So we're going to be shifting the magenta to maybe minus. It's looking too yellowish, so I don't know if I can maybe add the magenta. I don't know, I'm still testing to see what works for me. I think I'm going to leave it at +5. So I'm leaving my magenta at +5. Then our cyan, I think we are going to leave our cyan to it's too much. It's too much. I think our cyan should be at 0. Then let's go to the reds. The red is very important when you're working with black skin tone. You need to know how to use your reds. So my blacks, I'm trying to see how I can increase my blacks to maybe 10 plus 10, then yellows to maybe let's see plus 10. Yeah, I think it looks nice. So before, after, as you can see, it's popping out. It's looking really nice. Then you go to your magenta, then you can see the color change. When you shift your magenta to the plus side, it's introduce more reds and pink, so we don't want that. The reds are enough, so we are leaving it at 0. Then our cyan, when you shift it to the left hand side, it introduces red, so we are leaving it as well. So I don't want my black skin tones to be looking reddish. I don't like that. So even though we are going to add a little bit of magenta, we just maybe let's leave it at 5, just to make the skin more lively, more human, so that it will not look just black and just flat. So before, after, you can see how before, after, you can see how all these things are looking really good. So I think this is pretty much all for the skin tone balancing and and editing as well, retouching as well. So but you can still go further by doing frequent like by doing dodge and burn, but I don't think this particular image really needs dodge and burn, because I actually love how the image is already looking like. So yeah, I think I'm pretty much done with everything before, after. So you see there's a huge difference between the actual initial image and the edited image. So if you really like this tutorial and you want to learn more, please kindly subscribe to this channel and do well to let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace.